Welcome back, folks, to our channel, where you go before you travel. Today we're diving into a serious topic, the 5 most dangerous cities in Europe. Now I know what you're thinking. Europe? Dangerous? Isn't that where they have, like, free healthcare and those tiny cars? And yeah, it's got its charms, but like a dodgy kebab after a night out, Europe's also got a bit of a dark side. We're talking about places where you might think twice about wearing your best bling, where even the pigeons look at you sideways. We're going to peel back the layers of polite society and delve into the underbelly of the continent, exploring the cities that make even the most hardened traveler clutch their passport a little tighter. Stick with me as we unpack the stories behind the statistics and try to understand what makes these places tick. It's going to be a wild ride. Right, let's kick things off in Bradford, a city in the north of England that often gets a bad rap. Now, Bradford's got a fascinating history steeped in the wool industry. They used to call it Woolopolis, can you believe it? But like a lot of post-industrial cities, it's faced its share of challenges. See, Bradford's got this unfortunate title of being the drug-dealing capital of the UK, according to some reports. I'm talking about serious organized crime here, with turf wars and the lot. It's the kind of thing you see on The Wire, but with worse weather and pasties instead of crab cakes. And it's not just the hardcore stuff either. Petty crime, like shoplifting and muggings, is also a problem, especially in the city center. You can practically feel the tension in the air, like everyone's waiting for the other shoe to drop. I remember walking around Bradford talking to locals, and you could sense this feeling of, well, resignation, like they'd accepted that this was just how things were, but there was also a sense of community, of people looking out for each other. The police are trying, bless their cotton socks. They've got all sorts of initiatives in place to tackle the crime, but it's like trying to put out a fire with a water pistol sometimes. The problem runs deep, you see, rooted in poverty, lack of opportunity, and all those other societal ills we like to sweep under the rug. But here's the thing about Bradford, it's also got a lot of heart. There's a real sense of community spirit, and people are fighting back. They're setting up youth clubs, organizing neighborhood watch schemes, trying to reclaim their streets. It's a long road ahead for Bradford, no doubt about it. But there's a glimmer of hope, a sense that things might just be turning around. Next up, we're off to Marseille, the sunny southern French city that's a bit like that mate who's always up for a good time, but also has a knack for getting into trouble. Marseille has this gritty charm, a raw energy that you don't find in those picture-perfect postcard towns. But beneath that sun-kissed exterior lies a darker side, a world of organized crime, drug trafficking, and violence. We're talking about the real deal here, folks. Gangs with names like the Black Corsicans and the Marseille Mafia. These aren't your average street thugs. They're organized, they're ruthless, and they're making a killing, literally. The drug trade is rife in Marseille, fueled by its location on the Mediterranean coast, which makes it a prime spot for smuggling. You've got drugs pouring in from all over the world, hashish from Morocco, cocaine from South America, you name it. And where there are drugs, there's money, and where there's money, there's violence. Turf wars between rival gangs are commonplace, and innocent bystanders often get caught in the crossfire. I remember walking through the northern quartiers of Marseille, these sprawling housing estates that felt a million miles away from the chic cafes and boutiques of the city center. There was a palpable sense of danger in the air, like you were being watched, assessed. The authorities are trying to crack down on the crime, but it's like playing whack-a-mole. They shut down one gang and another one pops up in its place. It's a vicious cycle, fueled by poverty, social exclusion, and a sense of hopelessness. But amidst all the darkness, there are glimmers of hope. There are community organizations working tirelessly to provide opportunities for young people, to steer them away from a life of crime. There are artists and musicians using their creativity to challenge the status quo and inspire change. Now, Coventry. A city with a rich history known for its medieval cathedral and its role in the Second World War. But scratch beneath the surface and you'll find a city grappling with some serious issues. Coventry's got this unfortunate reputation for violent crime. We're talking about stabbings, shootings, the lot. It's the kind of place where even a trip to the Chippy can turn into a scene from Green Street Hooligans. But it hasn't always been this way. Coventry used to be a booming industrial city, a center for car manufacturing. But then came the decline of British manufacturing, and Coventry, like many other cities, was hit hard. Factories closed down, jobs were lost, and a sense of despair settled over the city. And as we all know, despair is a breeding ground for crime. The thing about Coventry is it's got this strange mix of old and new. You've got these beautiful medieval buildings right next door to brutalist concrete structures. It's like the past and the present are constantly clashing, trying to find a way to coexist. And that tension is reflected in the city itself. You've got areas that are relatively affluent. And then you've got areas that are, well, let's just say they've seen better days. The police are doing their best. God love them. They're out on the streets trying to keep a lid on things. But they're fighting a losing battle. There's just not enough of them, and they're up against some pretty tough characters. But amidst all the doom and gloom, there are glimmers of hope. There are community groups working to bring people together, to rebuild the social fabric that's been torn apart. There are artists and musicians using their talents to give young people a voice, to show them that there's more to life than crime. Right, let's talk about Birmingham, the UK's second largest city. Now, Birmingham's got a bit of a reputation, doesn't it? People think it's all concrete jungles and canal networks, and while it's true that Birmingham's got its fair share of urban sprawl, it's also a city with a lot to offer. But let's not beat around the bush. Birmingham has a problem with gang violence. We're talking postcode wars, turf wars, the lot. It's like something out of a Guy Ritchie film, but with less witty banter and more real-life consequences. The thing is, Birmingham's gang problem is complex. It's not just about drugs and territory, it's about poverty, lack of opportunity, and a sense of hopelessness that can grip young people in these areas. I remember speaking to a youth worker in Birmingham, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said, for some of these kids, being in a gang isn't a choice, it's a survival mechanism. And that's the tragedy of it all. These young people, they're just trying to find their place in the world, but they're doing it in a way that's destructive to themselves and to their communities. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are people in Birmingham who are working tirelessly to break the cycle of violence. There are community organizations providing support and guidance to young people, offering them alternatives to a life of crime. And then there's the people of Birmingham themselves. They're a resilient bunch, Brummies. They've faced their fair share of challenges over the years, but they always come back fighting. Finally, we arrive in Naples, Italy. Ah, Naples, the home of pizza, mandolins, and the Camorra. Yes, folks, we're talking about the Neapolitan Mafia, one of the oldest and most powerful criminal organizations in the world. Now, Naples is a city of contrasts. You've got stunning architecture, vibrant street life, and some of the best food in the world. But you've also got poverty, unemployment, and a deep-rooted culture of corruption. The Camorra, they're like the puppet masters pulling the strings from the shadows. They're involved in everything from drug trafficking and extortion to counterfeiting and waste disposal. They've got their fingers in every pie, and they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. I remember walking through the Spanish Quarter of Naples, this labyrinthine network of narrow streets and alleyways. It was like stepping back in time, with clothes hanging from balconies, kids playing football in the streets, and the smell of espresso in the air. But there was also this underlying sense of unease, like you were being watched, judged. You could feel the presence of the Camorra, even if you couldn't see them. The thing is, the Camorra, they're not just some shadowy criminal organization. They're embedded in the fabric of Neapolitan society. They're the shopkeepers, the businessmen, the politicians. They're everywhere. And that's what makes them so dangerous. They're not just criminals, they're part of the system. They control the flow of money, they influence elections, they even decide who gets to work and who doesn't. But despite the challenges, there's a resilience to the people of Naples. A determination to reclaim their city from the grip of the Camorra. There are anti-mafia activists, courageous journalists, and ordinary citizens who are standing up and saying, enough is enough. So there you have it. A glimpse into the underbelly of Europe. We've seen that even in the most picturesque corners of the continent, danger can lurk in the shadows. But remember, for every dark alleyway, there's a bustling piazza filled with life. For every shady character, there's a friendly local eager to share a laugh. These cities, for all their flaws, are also places of incredible resilience, of communities coming together to overcome adversity. They're a reminder that even in the face of danger, hope always finds a way. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. That's it for us, and see you on the next adventure.